Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to Apply. All right, so I have Jake Breen on the line, and he is managing broker at Berkshire Hathaway, Utah Properties. And this is a very special episode because we're announcing that Jake has been chosen as one of our newest upcoming authors in our Mission Matters series. So for those of you that have been watching the show for a long time, you know these are my favorite episodes. So first off, Jake, just want to say welcome to the show.
Hey, appreciate it, Adam. I'm happy to be here.
All right, Jake. So I'm pumped to have you in our next real estate book, and really excited to get your work out there and to get really your ideas out there. So really an honor to publish what you're going to write. And for context, everybody that's watching, so this is a new announcement. So we're not coming out with this book until Q1 of 2022. Am I on the right year, man? This year flew by, but Jake, we'll start this episode the way that we start them all, with our Mission Matters Minute. So Jake, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Jake, what mission matters to you?
So we have a little slogan at my team. We call ourselves Utah Cribs here, and it's stuck for 17 years. It's simple, but it's this. And we say we educate you so you can make an educated decision when it comes to your real estate. Simple and easy, but I'm pretty passionate about that because I've had almost 20 years and well over 1,000 clients now, and watched them go from different stages of their life to actual ownership. And having ownership of something tangible that you call a home really matters in people's lives. So we're passionate about that.
Man, first off, congrats on 20 years, over 1,000 clients. That's a huge accomplishment. So first off, congrats on that.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
So I want to go further into your practice and your firm and talk about Utah Properties, of course, but let's start a little bit further back. So how did you get started on this path really in real estate?
Yeah, in short, I kind of had a normal, what we call East Side Salt Lake City upbringing, and I was passionate about outdoor sports and things like that. Did a lot of skiing, hiking, biking, a lot of races and things like that, and was going to law school. And had a few things change in my life, lost my scholarship, my parents got divorced. You know, there are these stories that push you in different directions in your life. And so I decided at 21 years old that I needed to make money now. And I was waiting tables at night and heard about people flipping homes and things like that. And so I got in kind of that way. And
what year was this roughly? I'm curious.
This was roughly 2001.
Okay.
Yeah. So got into it that way, and it naturally gravitated after I did a few remodels with my brother, and we sold them. This was in the days of easy credit,
and this was 2001. This is kind of the tech wreck right there, the .com bubble.
Yeah. So real estate in our market wasn't necessarily in a recession, but it was very suppressed.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, what a time to go into it.
Loans were easy to come by. I mean, we didn't know any of this at the time. We just hopped in and did a few remodels, but that got us enough capital to kind of get going. And once we did well, we weren't of an age to garner clientele, but our friends' parents started trusting us, saying, hey, can you get me an investment? And, a few years later, we were kind of residential sales leaders, rookies of the year, up and coming in the market, and grew from there over the last 20 years.
Man, that's awesome. What a great story. And I had to pull out that point about it being, the dot-com bubble burst, 2001, 2000, like that whole time going into 2002, like that was a big deal. And so that being said, I pulled that out for a reason. I mean, right now we're, for context, for those that'll watch this interview very, much in the future, we're in December of 2021. It's been a rough year and a half to 2 years for some businesses and markets and people, COVID, all the other stuff, pandemic wise. So like, what would be your advice to people that are considering, a career in real estate now, or getting in the industry? Like what are some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to give you a little bit of a long-winded answer because I think to answer that adequately, you have to kind of reverse back to the recession.
Tangents are okay here, just so you know. Go for it. I'm in. And they're totally fine.
So depending on how you define recession, there's been 6 in the history of the United States, right? Mm-hmm. And there's only been one of them in which median price in real estate nationally went down. And that's the one we recently went through, 2008 to 2012.
Yeah.
Now, in our market, I can speak specifics on data because I kind of have that memorized. But in general, we were hovering around a median price of about $330,000 in Salt Lake City for a single family home in 2008. Over the 4-year recession into 2012, that declined 34%. Now, luxury fared a little worse. Luxury probably went down 50%. Other markets were very similar. We followed Seattle, Portland, Southern California markets. That's old news.
Yeah.
What consumers forget is that at that time, the bottom of the recession, 2011-ish, even experts in the industry were saying, we'll never go back to where we were pre-recession.
I remember that.
Right?
Yeah, I remember that.
To forget that in my market, it only took 2 years and 1 quarter. So 9 quarters. And we had surpassed the median price that we had achieved in 2008. And then if you adjust for inflation, it only took 2 more quarters. Yeah. And now we've blasted through that and we're close to 500,000 in Salt Lake City. So to me, there's some old adages in real estate, right, Adam? One of them being location, location, location.
Yep.
We can talk about this in a minute, but I kind of call bull on that. It's more about staying power, staying power, staying power. If you can weather a downturn storm, the entire data points of statistics and history in the U.S. on real estate says that at another point it will be up. And 6 recessions and only 1 where we had a median price downturn. Yeah. I think that's pretty good odds compared to other asset classes you might be investing in. So what I say to people getting in is question number 1, is this a career in sales or what are you wanting to do? Or is this for investment purposes? Because they're 2 different pathways. Yeah. I can speak to both. I do manage a lot of people in the sales industry and have taught around the country. So I have a unique perspective on sales folk. Yeah. And the easiest way to tell them what to do is I joke about this with people sometimes, but I say, hey, it's analogous to starting or entering into a multi-level marketing company. Although I don't like that business strategy. Yeah. The first thing you're going to do when you get into a fully commission-based sales position in real estate, whether that's residential, commercial, is who do you know? How in touch are you with your contacts? How do you better your own personal expertise so that you're giving them good advice? And with time, they'll trust you.
That's awesome. And I want to go a step further on that. So let's say that somebody has an aptitude for it and they're considering going into the market or into as a salesperson, right, as a career. So now when they're thinking about what type of brokerage to associate themselves with, or like what path to go there, I know that can be very pivotal too, in terms of just in general, like what teams, what model, what structure, like in general, like what are some, I know this is going to vary from state to state, from person, their preference. I'm not saying there's any one magic formula to say, okay, this is the perfect route and this is the perfect type of firm. But what are some of the things that novices should be thinking about when they're thinking about what type of firm or brokerage to join?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've taught at some of the real estate schools. I've seen people go through this evolution of what to do. And step 1 is knowing yourself. Yeah. You've got to kind of define your personality type to then align yourself with what's going to be the best situation. However, in this day and age with technology, and we lump them into a bucket called discount brokerages, there are a lot of brokerages that are ran, let's say, mostly automated and electronically. And naturally, those are the ones that give new people or experienced people the best split. That's what we call it in real estate. So commission comes in. What are you going to net versus what the house takes? And although I've made a career being on the opposite side of that spectrum in really full service luxury brokerages, I can speak to both. I have experience on both. Yeah. So if you know yourself, if you are fully independent, quite techie, have a really good Rolodex of people that know and trust you,
Yeah.
you could probably make it as a new agent in a discount environment. But I would tell you, as a percentage of people I've seen attempt to start the new career, it's probably a 90-10, Adam. 90% that go with discount, they really spin their wheels and fail at that model. And they're either out of the industry completely or they cave and come to a full service model where they can get training. And it's not just training and education, because even at full service places, a lot of that is digital or online now. But it's really more than networking. And we learned that back in college, right? I mean, part is what you learn, but also who you're with and the relationships you're creating. It's the same thing in real estate. You may see other agents, other realtors as your competitors, which they are. Yeah. But I like to call it co-opetition. You're in there, you're hearing from them, you're learning from them, and best to surround yourself with those that already do well. Yeah. And actually pick stuff up and have some success that way.
Co-opetition. Come on, man. You're full of them today, Jake. This is awesome. I never heard this one. I'm like, I'm in. Co-opetition.
Oh, I make up some of my own phrases. You'll hear more.
Oh, can we? I mean, for all the media people out there, co-opetition? I don't know. Oh man, that's awesome. So tackling that question from the other angle. So people looking to invest and just purchase property. So, lots of ways to get access to real estate in a portfolio. We, obviously, ETFs, mutual funds, lots of different ways, and not asking you to, necessarily go into the tax ramifications and all of that. I mean, you could, whatever you care to share, of course, but just in general, if somebody's thinking about investing, sometimes even investing out of state, what are some of the things that they should be thinking about?
Yeah, great question. I'll keep this high level because I can get really down into the weeds.
Oh, yeah.
Here. Let's go back to that age-old adage of location, 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 because I like to debunk some age-old adages and even strategies written in books. Although I'm not going to knock on Rich Dad, Poor Dad, there's some philosophies that are quite outdated now.
For sure.
So really, instead of location, 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 I would say first is maybe asset class, price bracket, and then what I already mentioned, staying power. So to quickly dive into those, if someone says, hey, Jake, I want to invest in real estate, what should I do? And as you mentioned, they could go through ETFs. They could just buy stocks that are real estate related. They could wholly own. They're going to have to define asset class. Well, here's the real analogy. Yeah. In the recession, when consumers hear location, 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 they would think, well, forget the Bronx. I'm going to buy right by Central Park, Saks Fifth Avenue or something like that. The reality is during the recession, both of those neighborhoods went down. So let's say Saks Fifth Avenue was at 8 million. And then if you bought at the perfect time at the bottom of the recession, you got a penthouse for 5 million. Yeah. Or you could have bought 5 places in the Bronx for $1 million each and spent $5 million. The reality is, and I've done this study around the country, done it intensively here in Salt Lake City, you would have made more money as an investment strategy buying the cheaper price bracketed properties in the bad areas and then held on as those came out of the recession and those neighborhoods got regentrified. But when we say location, 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 consumers are always thinking of the 5-6 star locations and think to themselves, well, I can't afford there. Yeah. Now that investment strategy really trickles down even across asset classes, whether you're going, okay, it's multifamily and rentals or storage or office. I have dealt and sold in all. I also currently own every asset class I just mentioned. We're long-term holders in ours. And so I do monthly look at my own P&L and we use Buildium software. And so I log in and check all that out. The reality is what trumps all of that is your ability to weather a storm, staying power. And it's like Warren Buffett said, I love this. And yes, he owns our brokerage. So I like to quote him and I'm going to butcher the quote because it's not exactly, but translated in my language, he said it this simple. When everybody else is selling, buy. And when everyone else is buying, sell. Yeah. Right. So when things are really up, when everyone was crying the blues, 2011, gold and silver were spiked. That was actually the time to sell yours, but everyone held on because they thought the world might end. I need this. Yeah. And then controversially, by 2015, as we climbed out, you watched precious metals go down and really stabilize. and even drop, then the time to invest is then.
Mm-hmm.
As far as real estate goes, it's a little trickier, I think, than all the other asset classes. Here's why. One, real estate is unique. In other words, even if you buy in a condo complex, your unit, although the floor plans are the same, is uniquely different. Mm-hmm. Whereas an ounce of gold versus an ounce of gold, same thing. You can value that on the market. Yeah. Number two, real estate traditionally, unless you, as mentioned, buying a stock or whatnot, is not as liquid. I like to tell people it's more liquid than they worry about, because you can usually get rid of it. It's just a question of price. Mm-hmm. But it does have an escrow period, and everything else we consume or invest in doesn't. So that makes the investment strategies a little different. But if you're looking for one quick crown jewel from me, I would say it's less about where you buy. It's more about the asset class. And if you have the power, sure, right now, if you buy and it's cash flowing, 2 thumbs up. You need to have the staying power to weather a downturn. So if you can just get through that period, history says at some moment, these are usually 3 to 6 year cycles, it'll be back up.
Awesome. I want to switch focus a bit here. So let's get into Utah property. So of course, real estate in Utah, but tell us a little bit more about it. So tell us more about your firm.
I love Utah, born and raised here. As mentioned, I've spoke around the country. I've been on a few boards where I've had the unique opportunity to be at other Berkshire Hathaway and Sotheby's brokerages around the country and see how top teams run their business. So I think I can shed light on a national perspective, but here's what makes Utah unique, in my opinion. Number one is, and this is pre-COVID, over the last decade, we've really gotten on the map as the outdoor recreation state. Now, I know we get compared to, Denver and some other markets, but if you fly into Arnett International Airport, which, by the way, is now the second most trafficked Delta hub, we just put $3.8 billion into our international airport. It's the nicest airport I've been to in the United States. Amazing. It's really cool. And that's kind of put Utah on the map. We also have one of the largest commercial projects going on in the United States right now in Salt Lake City. And it's the building out and development of the intermodal hub. And that is so that shipping containers can bypass seaports. As you know, right now, they're all blocked up.
Oh my gosh, logistics nightmare.
Right? And all that. And so that's being built in Salt Lake right now. It's a 2,000 acre project. 800 of it is the inland port. Economists in our state are saying that, that's going to be a half-century long growth spurt for Utah, just those two things. So if you overlay that on this real resurgence of love of the outdoors, Utah is the only state I've seen in which you can drive from the northern point to the southern point in 4 hours. And the landscape changed so drastically from mountains, timbers, snow, to red rock desert. I hate to say Las Vegas, because when you're at the southern point of our state, you're only 60 minutes from Las Vegas. Las Vegas is like a sagebrush desert. Yeah. 1 hour into Utah and you've got arches, canyon lands, and these gorgeous, beautiful 1,000-foot canyons. So it's that married with, how do you say this? This COVID has only exacerbated this, has only put this on steroids. People are finally deciding in a bigger way. They want to be outside. They want to recreate. They want to walk. They want to hike. They want to e-bike. And so Salt Lake City, Utah has become the number one in-migration city. I'm probably 2 months old on checking this data, but U-Haul statistics in the United States during COVID. And I see it, man. I own a home in southern Utah and northern Utah, so I'm back and forth quite a bit. And just in the last 2 years, I'm going, man, at our national parks, 70% of the license plates are out of state.
Wow.
So obviously that's the backstory. Yeah. There's a lot of other good things going for our market. We're the number one job growth place in the United States. We're now number 2 in tech unicorns. That's $1 billion startups. Yeah. 2 Silicon Valley. Salt Lake City, Utah, number 2. We call ours Silicon Slopes. So all these things are kind of converging. Obviously, that's causing our real estate to get rather ridiculous. I'll put that in a quick perspective for you. Right before we hopped on this call, I was pulling for sale single family homes in Salt Lake County
Right.
That's the only criteria I put into our MLS system. There's only 545 total homes for sale in our entire county. To
Wow.
put that in perspective, what would be kind of a healthy market where pricing isn't skyrocketing and there's enough inventory to do maybe a 30-day turnover?
Yeah.
2,500 to 3,000 homes is what we should have.
Jeez.
Yeah. So we got about a week supply of housing, so and a third of it's over $1 million.
Amazing. So the Utah market is moving.
It's
And
exploding.
what do you see kind of going forward? Like in terms of, you gave us some of the background there, but like if investors are looking into Utah, like give us a little bit of feel for like new builds, like what's happening on the construction end and just overall, like for
Yes.
to meet this demand, because it's not going to slow down as with the projects and all things you mentioned, like it's not going to slow down.
For sure. I'll say this bluntly. We are, as far as clientele goes, we're not short on investors. Yeah. We have, and we're getting people out of the woodworks. We're getting REITs from, your market in Southern California saying, we have $1 billion to spend. Where should we put it? And we literally can't get them anything.
Yeah.
Our new construction market is obviously exploding. And, every asset class is going up. So it depends on whether versus speaking to like an investment firm or a REIT, I'm going to speak to just the average investor, a person who's got some side money and they'd like to invest in our market. I get those calls on the weekly, and I usually am a bit depressive, but I'm a realist. I kind of tell them, hey, look, there is not a multifamily duplex, triplex, fourplex I could sell you right now in Salt Lake that's going to cash flow.
Yeah.
Period. So you've got to kind of be in it for the long term. Furthermore, most of those investments have appreciated 12 to 14% in 2020 and now 20% in 2021.
Wow.
So buying something that's gone up a third in value in 2 years would make most investors trigger shy.
Yeah.
But then I'll relate it all back to, do you believe in this market long term, and do you have the staying power to weather the storm? The other thing that we are seeing, and I know this is across other markets in the United States, but becoming big here, is nightly rentals, Airbnb, VRBO. Utah's kind of a small city state that just became big city in the last decade. I'm not sure there's another market like this in the United States. And so, to be politically correct on this, you've got a lot of kind of cowboy strategy, old bureaucratic planning departments, zoning departments that are being pushed, shoved, lawsuited into big city thinking, density, multiplex developments, things like that. So how does that affect the average investor? You got to kind of be into the know of some of the areas that are getting regentrified that might look really combed over and industrial and sketchy now, but we already know what's entitled over the next 3 to 5 years in those areas is going to be an extension of our downtown market. I think those are kind of the best areas to focus on. And with that, you are seeing that old guard change thought philosophy process in the Airbnb, VRBO nightly rental. We literally didn't have any zoning in our county for nightly rentals, although a lot of people were doing it illegally over the last decade. I myself did on mine, especially around the ski resorts. We're now legally zoning areas that allow that. And although I wouldn't say you cash flow big time, trust me, I've sold a bunch. You can bank on 80 to 100 nights a year with people recreating. It's a great way to own your second ski chalet pretty much free. And those markets are only growing.
So switching focus a bit here, Jake. So not to put you on the spot, but when somebody says not to do this and then they do it, that's what I'm doing right now. So the book, I know you've just been added as an author, which I'm really excited about. What kind of things are you going to write about?
Good question. I think I glossed over some of it already. I'm passionate about that whole debunking some old real estate myths and applying new strategy. I also speak around the country, and it's real estate related, but the title of one of my classes that's gotten pretty popular is Dear Boomer, Please Communicate. Now, the title's facetious, and I don't want to offend anybody here. And I do spend the first 10 minutes of that class
Yeah.
generalizing how boomers communicate. And it's funny and a bit offensive. I've never had anyone walk out. But as quickly as I offend boomers, I then shift gears and I start offending all the millennials in the room.
Oh.
And then I tell everybody I'm right in the middle, which I've made up my own term for this. I call myself the gap generation.
Yep.
Now, although I'm Gen X, I use the term gap because here's the reality. If you are between the ages of, I'd say, 37, 38 years old right now, and maybe 45, you are this unique generation where when I was in high school, I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have an email address till I was in college. But I was also young enough when those things came to market that I adopted them quickly. So I can turn to the boomer crowd and speak boomer. And I understand where they're coming from. And I can turn to the millennial crowd, speak millennial. I can bridge that gap. My philosophy and why the class is popular is simply this. It sounds like a silly little thing, but I'm passionate about it because I will very often get a text from my father-in-law on the weekend that says, hey, give me a call. Now, I love my father-in-law, but he's probably called me 4 times. I haven't answered. I'm with my 4 kids. Dog. Who knows what I'm doing? And it's call me, call me, call me, call me. And then when I do, he wants to, how you doing? This, that, the other, all this small chat. And ultimately, I get to the issue. He wants me to help him move a couch or something, right? Now, what I dive into in the class is in business, if we could all select the right form of communication for the task. If you want me to move a couch, shoot me a text. I'm your loving son-in-law. I'll come over and help move the couch. And we have it resolved like that. If you need to talk to me about something more that deserves or warrants in person or telephone, I'll do that too. Boomers are famous for telling millennials, you don't answer your phone. It's frustrating. I can't talk at you. Millennials are famous for going, I'm not answering this call. You have some preconceived notion what you want me to do for you, and you want to work me over until I say yes. So I can exacerbate this, but in my industry, in real estate, oh man, this is abused to the 10th degree by sales folk. Because all the sales folk that built a career in the 80s and 90s using a phone, they love the cell phone and they're masters at it. They get in their car and just choose somebody to dial up just because they want to use Bluetooth. Then you get the next generation going, oh my gosh, there's so many other ways to resolve this. If you're asking me to move a couch, it only warrants a 5-second text and we can decide for a time and place. So I'd like to, although not directly real estate related, I do think in general in business, all this tech was supposed to help us better communicate. And I know the stress that everyone's put on, even during COVID now, it's all video conference. So it's just another communication tool we've got to add. And most of my business associates, they're just stressed out with all the things they got to pay attention to. If we could define some principles as to what to use when, I think everybody would calm down a little bit and tech would better or allow us to spread ourselves more thin.
Oh my gosh. I remember when my mom learned how to text. Oh my gosh. It was just my whole life changed when she learned how to text. Because I'm not really on Facebook often. I mean, for business, we do a lot of promo. We have a lot of Facebook pages as a company, but I'm not on it very often. So what she'll do, and this is hilarious, I can't make this up, Jake. She will give me an update every once in a while, and she will send me all the pictures she's posted on Facebook for like a month. So I'll get like 50 texts of every picture she posted on. She's like, I know you're not on Facebook, Adam, so let me send you all my updates. I don't even know. I don't even know how she figured out how to do this. Like, it's just like rapid fire, like pictures, like, You
got to establish some norms. I mean, in family situations, it's it's one thing, and we can all kind of give a long leash. But in business, my whole team has heard me do this around the country. And it is surprising I haven't had somebody walk out of class because I dial it up. I'm particularly facetious when I start this class, but it is funny. And it's funny when you get serious about it, how anyone in business will go, dang, that's actually really true. And, if there was a chart that says use text for this, use email for this, use phone call for this, use in person if it goes this far.
Use Instagram for this, use Twitter for this. There's a thing. It's weird, but there's a thing.
It's a thing.
Oh, well, Jake, I'll tell you, man, it's been really a pleasure having you on the show today, learning more about your background, obviously getting some of your ideas for the upcoming book. That being said, if somebody's watching this and they want to learn more about Utah properties or to connect with you and your team, I mean, what's the best way for them to do that?
The best way is all our contact info, blog, YouTube channel, social
Yeah.
media is at
Mhm.
utahcribs.com.
Yeah.
It's just Utah, UTAH, Cribs, CRIBS.com. We chose that way back in the early 2000s, late 90s because of MTV Cribs, and has too much notoriety to change these days. So
No, I love it. It's awesome. All right, so we'll have we'll have that, of course, in the show notes and all that good stuff. So so everybody watching can just go click on it, head right on over and check it out, and connect with Jake and his team. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time with Mission Matters, we're a platform that's all about bringing on business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives, and having them really share why they do what they do. Like, how are they adding value in the marketplace? What do they have to share with the world? If you're into that type of content, we definitely invite you to hit the subscribe button. We have many, many more mission-based entrepreneurs and executives coming up, and we don't want you to miss any of those interviews. And Jake, really, again, congrats on being selected for the book. Really excited to publish your work. And thanks again for coming on the show.
thanks for having me, Adam.